Hi there, you're listening to A Founder's Life, and I'm your host, Leo Gestetner. Hi there, and welcome to A Founder's Life. I'm your host, Leo Gestetner. I'm joined here today by Zack Lemear. Zack, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you for having me on the show. My name is Zack Lemear. I'm currently a partner and lead strategist at my branding and marketing agency called Pivot Creative, but I'm also working on a coaching and consulting and kind of leadership business because I've been through the weeds, I think, in all the different areas of life, and I've found my way on the other side with very little resources, but just the same method seems to work every time over and over. And I want to start sharing that with people.
Thank you. I love that. And I'd love to hear more about your journey. What sort of got you to where you are now? Where did you start out, and how in business did you get to where you are?
Okay, this is a big question.
We got plenty of time.
So I was born in a situation that was not ideal. In extreme poverty to an addict, never met my father. She was a ninth grade dropout, not a lot of resources, not a lot of good examples. And most of the other people in my family were similar, but still not high achievers by any sense of the imagination. She was a scrappy woman, though. And I have to tell you, it was a very entrepreneurial household because I don't think she had much choice but to try and find a way to earn without even a high school diploma, most of which was sales, most of which was building businesses, most of which was honestly, most of which was scams, things I wasn't aware of at the time, but it taught me a lot. She had 4 or 5 different pseudonyms for her telemarketing scams, and she would call the same person 3 or 4 times. But then there was these funny things she would be able to do. She was the greatest con artist of all time, I'm pretty sure. They should make a movie about her. She's passed now, so there's no way to interview her about this. But so she'd be able to call any restaurant, any department store, any hotel chain, any car rental dealership, anything you can think of. And with just weaving some words at them, get presidential suites for free, cash, gift cards, a stack of 10 pizzas for the Boy Scouts. Why not? She'd go to the Coca-Cola plant and get 40 cases of chips and soda. I mean, there was nothing that she couldn't weasel out of somebody. And I was unaware of all of the negative parts of this when I was watching it as a kid, but she would just drop me off in front of a convenience store with a roll of raffle tickets and a pitch, and she'd pick me up in 3 hours, and she said she'd give me 10% of the cut. I had no idea there was no prize to be won, but what person is going to say no to a 12-year-old smiling when he speaks, "Good morning, sir. Would you like to buy a Hugs Not Drugs raffle ticket?" Blink, blink. And it was funny because it was always Hugs Not Drugs or Dare or something that she was definitely not suited to represent. But the point is it was a very entrepreneurial household. And so I had that spirit kind of in me from a young age, but I also had a pretty bold intolerance of all the things going on around me. I refused to accept that this was okay, that the drug use and the abuse and all the neglect and all that stuff was something that I should accept, even at 5 years old. There's a story that I haven't been really told on another podcast before, but I'll break it out here. Even at 5 years old, I decided I was going to run away from home because I had it with her and all of the nonsense that was going on in the house. And I was like, how can I be the only adult in this house? I'm 5. But I remember very specifically taking a paper grocery bag, the kind that we used to wrap around our textbooks, and I filled it up with whatever I could, mostly just like toilet paper and a couple of stuffed animals. And I announced to the house, "I'm calling a cab. I'm out of here." I had no idea what that meant. I just heard, because we didn't have a car, I always heard people say, "I'm calling a cab." So I just thought that's all you had to do, just speak it into existence and it would show up. So I'm like, "I'm calling a cab and I'm leaving." And I left and I sat on that stoop for 3 hours and no cab came. And I was pretty PO'd about it because I was like, how does this cab thing work? Now I'm stuck here. And, when I was 8, I got taken out of that and put into the foster care system. I've moved probably 80 times in my life so far, and I never really left the state that I live in. I've had a lot of trial and error. I was morbidly obese, but I had a vision. I had a vision, clear vision from 5 years old even, that I refused to accept this way of life. I refused to accept this as normal. I refused to accept this as okay. And I'd always fight back, always. And they labeled me oppositional defiant and insubordinate. And I got put in group homes and bounced around all over the place. I mean, I in 2 years of junior high, I moved to 5 junior highs in 2 years, and I never left the state. I think I hit them all. And so that's the kind of thing, but it built resilience in me, right? And the thing is I had a vision of doing this, and I had a half brother that lived with my mom that for some reason never got the brunt of all the neglect and the abuse, so he never really got taken, which I always thought was curious, because she still was doing the same things, and it still was not a great place for him to be. And unfortunately, he ended up drinking himself to death and passed away at 33 because of all the stuff he had to deal with, and he couldn't cope with it. I was definitely the stronger of the two, the more resilient, the more willing to fight. And he just kind of accepted it all. I mean, she took his Social Security number and racked up so much debt on his name years before he was even 18, crippling him for his adulthood. Couldn't even get a cell phone because there was just so much debt and so much delinquent debt in his name. So this is the kind of person that we're talking about, right? So fighting through that my whole life and having to figure out how to be resilient, but also learning all those sales techniques. You know, it's like whether I was selling things that didn't exist or not, I was learning how to do it. And I was building up the confidence to speak to strangers and do that, right? And go out and sell. And I was learning certain things about taking a percentage of the profits. And you know, the very first time I actually wanted to start a business, it was a lemonade stand. And I didn't know I was doing this at the time. But she said, okay, well, here's the lemonade. Here's the stuff. I'm going to rent you the table. She made me pay for everything out of whatever allowance I had from selling fake raffle tickets. And she let me go out on my own. She's like, all the profits are yours, but this is what it's going to cost you. I'm like, okay. So I'm learning business fundamentals from basically a sociopath. However, you know, I chose to use it for the right reasons and in the right ways because of my vision, right? So anyway, so I put this lemonade stand out there, and within an hour, I literally had somehow figured out how to double it. So I had one across the street and one on both sides of the street, and I had the neighbor's kids working for me. And I was upstairs going through my junk drawers looking for anything I can put into paper bags so I could scale up and start selling grab bags. I was being robbed blind by these kids, by the way. I had no idea what I was doing. And I had no idea that I was trying to scale up my business either. I didn't know. I just thought, hey, this sounds like a good idea. I bet you I can get these kids to work for less than I would do it. And then I could get this much money for the arcade and some candy and whatever else. But I've always had this in my blood. And, you know, going through the hardships of the foster care system, a lot of them were abusive. A lot of them were just not great places for me to be. And also being in like halfway houses and group homes for kids, you know, just being in the presence of other delinquents was not great. And it was not inspiring me. And I had nothing to lose, so I was always pushing the boundaries. One of the things that I loved to do the most was tap dance on the line of the rules to see how far I could push it. Just to see how far I could push it. That was the game for me. Like, I had nothing. I was like, what are you going to do? Call my mom? Are you going to put me in a foster home? What are you going to do? Put me in a group home? What are you going to take all my rights and freedoms away? Already gone. What are you going to take? You can't take everything from somebody who has nothing and then expect me to have any consequences for my actions. So that's kind of the attitude I had, you know, in adolescence. And, you know, I got in a lot of trouble. I was suspended. I was expelled. Every kind of thing you could think of. And then I found one foster family for about 3 years that I stayed with, and I really got along with them. And really, none of them went to college. Nobody was pushing me to do it. Nobody had the experience or whatever. I had tried to figure out what it is that I want to do with my life. And I'm like, you know, 18's coming up. And at a certain point, my record's going to be expunged, you know, like, so all this bad stuff that I've been doing, I didn't do anything like really bad. Like, I wasn't setting fires on houses or whatever. I mean, I definitely probably shoplifted a candy bar or something, but I mean, I wasn't a hardened criminal, but I definitely was not doing the right things. And I didn't have the grades. I didn't have the background. I didn't have the money. I didn't have the support. I had nothing to get me into college, except for the fact that I was what they call a ward of the state, which basically means I had no parents or guardians, and I was kind of on my own, even though I was living with this foster family. And they were great. They gave me the stability that I needed, even if it was just 3 years. Now, I was approaching 300 pounds at that time, and I was getting real big, and I was just unhealthy. I had a girlfriend. I was starting to make my way around, had a job, things like that. But I was definitely getting unhealthy, and I had no vision or future. And everyone in my family was still continuing to make the choices of perpetuating the generational cycles that were handed to them. And some of them had it worse than me. Some of them had it better than me. But either way, they were just choosing this lifestyle. And it made no sense to me. It made zero sense. I couldn't understand why they would choose it. And I still had this vision. So I was accepted because I was an at-risk youth into this program called Upward Bound. And some people are probably going to think that it's Outward Bound, the ropes course. It's not. It's Upward Bound, which is at a college campus on the summer. And they just it's just school over the summer, but it's not school because you failed. It's just school to keep you on a path of learning and to try and kind of help you with some resources to get into college. So like when I did that for a few years, and it kind of started planting the seeds of college in my mind. And I'm like, I'm going to be the first person in my two or three generations to graduate high school. That was an accomplishment, like I was really trying to break every generational cycle, but unfortunately the bar was super low on accomplishments, so it wasn't really, it was hard for me to get out of there without any resources or support, but it was not hard to just graduate high school, like that was, I couldn't, when I did it, I was like, why was this so difficult? Why did no one else do this? I don't understand. You just basically had to show up. And I moved around so many times. I'm like, I got really good at learning quick, adapting quick, being resilient, all the things you need to be an entrepreneur. And I had the entrepreneurial spirit built into me. And so I decided that the last quarter of the last year of high school, I was going to go to college. I had, because of Upward Bound, I had sent a couple of things in, and I got maybe 2 or 3 acceptance letters, one of which was one that I actually wanted to go to. And the other 2 were just safety schools or whatever. And I wanted to go for graphic design because I really loved art. And I felt like strategically, the only art I can sell and make money on is ads. And I loved computers. I was like, perfect. Computers, ads, graphic design. This sounds like a good idea. And this was 1998. So it was still like .com boom area. We still couldn't use our computer and play music on the same computer at the same time. We didn't have that was a pretty decent computer. So I ended up getting a full scholarship to a state school. And you'd think a kid from my background would just jump on it and be like, yes, thank you. I'm going to get the full 4 years. I got the financial aid package with work study and room and board, and everything was covered because I was a ward of the state, right? They all have, I think, thresholds or something that they have to fill. And I gave it away. I said, no, thank you, because it was a party school. And it also wasn't something that I felt like I was going to be proud of. If I'm going to be the first one to break this generational cycle, and I'm going to be the first one to do what's never been done before, I'm going to do it so that in 10, 20 years, not only will I be proud of it, but the school's brand will support me in whatever I want to do. And then the other thing was, I wanted to go to a place where I could entrench myself in the community of people that I aspired to be. And so I ended up choosing Endicott College. That's in Beverly, Mass. It's a very nice, prestigious school, 3 private beaches, castles. It's quite the school. It was very much a culture shock for me, from coming from, I'm sleeping on a cot because I don't even have my own space, and I'm moving every 5 minutes, to going to this place where everybody came with a free Beamer and Mercedes and their whole ride was paid for. And I had 3 jobs and, just totally different. But it was where I felt like I needed to be so that I could become the person that I desired to be. And I had that vision. It was just evolving. But in order to get into the school, again, with this resilience and this grit and this willingness and this confidence to sell myself. I remember writing to the bursar's office. I didn't have a computer. I didn't have a typewriter. All I had was a yellow legal pad. I remember this like it was yesterday. And I wrote, this is how much I have in the bank. This is how much I could possibly make while still having a full course load with 3 jobs. And this is how much I need from you. I really would love to come to your school. Help. I sent it to them, and they'd send me back something that wasn't, they were like, oh, great. Here's 12% of what you asked for. I'm like, okay, I'm going to write again. This is how much I have. This is how much I can make. And this is how much I need. I'd really like to come to your school, and so on and so forth. About 15 back and forths with the bursar's office went by. And I finally got what I needed to go. And I was driven. I was focused. I made a commitment to myself that I had heard and I'd seen everyone else around me that had talked about going to college or their experience with college, that they had picked a major and switched it and flip-flopped it 15 times. I'm like, nope, I'm picking something and I'm sticking with it. I don't care what it is. So I did a Bachelor of Fine Arts in graphic design with a minor in business because I always loved business and I wanted to learn more about it. And I was fascinated by like micro and macroeconomics classes while I'm also doing painting courses. You know, it's like, it was perfect. I loved it. It was finally a place where I could grow. And the 8 to 10 months before I went to college, I went on a weight loss journey where I lost 100 pounds. And this transformed my mindset in every capacity. Everything that I ever thought was a limitation was opened up in front of me. I started off where I couldn't run from stop sign to stop sign on the street without getting sick, to 8 months later losing 100 pounds and running with ease 6 miles through the woods because I wanted to, which is a totally different mindset, right? And so I was thinking about it and I'm like, okay, I believed, like I believe in the law of gravity, that my body was just the way it was. I believed that I was just a fat person because every person I'd ever come from was a fat person. And every person that they gave birth to was a fat person, and we're just fat people. And I'm not built for running or strength or any kind of anything. And I believed it. I mean, I believed it to the core. And then after this transition of learning how to eat better, running, but the fitness journey really helps you do so much. And I've heard so many entrepreneurs say that, you know, when you get physically fit, it's a lot of the characteristics that it takes to be an entrepreneur, right? Delaying gratification, doing the hard things even when you don't want to, staying with a problem longer than most people, having a vision of what you want and going for it, no matter what it takes, adapting, pivoting, whatever it takes. And I was like, okay, if I believe that and it wasn't true, what else do I believe right now that has been pushed into my brain from all these bad influences that is also not true? And from that day forward, and I'm saying this with 100% honesty and authenticity, from that day forward until today, and even hopefully until the day I'm dead, I believed that there was nothing out of my reach. Not a single thing in my life was impossible ever again, because I realized it's all in my mind. So that's what gave me the confidence to just keep writing the bursar's office over and over. Hey, prestigious school out of state that is private. I'm a poor kid with no resources I didn't have the good grades. I didn't have the portfolio, because back then the portfolio was expensive. You had to do all the work, then you had to hire a photographer, then you had to get slides made, and then you had to send in a slide deck. And I mean, there was none of this stuff where you could just digital photo this thing and email it. None of that existed. Digital cameras, the best one out there, cost $1,000. It was 2 megapixels. That was the best one. It was a Nikon, I remember. And it was terrible. And so, you know, this is what has led me to this day, right now, where you're speaking to me now, is I've learned how to build that resilience. I started a business right out of college. I'm starting up my 11th business now, and they weren't all good. Some of them were poorly timed. Some of them were poorly managed. Some of them were terrible ideas. Some of them were great, and some of them worked well. But this is how I learned. You know, I was always trial by fire, because I very rarely slept at all in school. Maybe 3 hours a night. I was very extreme, which was something I didn't think was a problem at the time. but it definitely was. And I've evolved into this, what I call the 7-step formula for achievement and greatness is basically it's the thing that has given me the success in every element of my life: relationships, parenting, school, work, spiritual, physical health, everything. And so I've had many businesses throughout the thing. I've been divorced a couple of times. And right now I really just want to share with others what I've been able to accomplish, because I understand I'm unique statistically. Statistically speaking, foster kids don't get to go to college. Even and something like 3% of the ones that go with a full scholarship, 1% of them graduate. I'm outside the realm of all those statistics. I get it. But I don't think I'm special, because I don't have anything different than anyone else. I'm not incredibly, I'm not off the charts with my IQ. In fact, I've got a couple of learning disabilities and ADHD. I was morbidly obese. I had nothing, no support, just my grit and my vision and my willingness to push forward. And that consistency has built dividends. And, and you think after 20 years, I was with this woman, and I had done all those things that I just described to you to get to a point where I thought, I've made it. I'm comfortable. We had lots of money. We could buy houses without fear. We could outbid anyone. It was crazy, the difference in how I started and where I was. And then all of a sudden, she cheated, and I lost everything in overnight. Everything. I went from having a job, a wife, a best friend, kids, a dog, a beautiful home, a family system that was all on her side because I didn't have any really of my own, to living in my car and losing all of it for someone else's indiscretion. And so that was devastating to me. That was a big, big bottom in my life, because I had worked so hard and I thought I had achieved everything that I had ever dreamed of, which was breaking generational cycles, being the first person to ever go to college, having a real job, not having a drug problem, not being an alcoholic, not being abusive, being a good parent, staying growth-minded, focused, all these things, and to lose it all and to have nothing left. On Thanksgiving week, this happened. So I felt like I was living a country music song where I lost my friends, my dogs, my kids, my wife, my home, and I was literally sleeping in my car. And I was like, how the hell did this happen? How did all that work turn into this? And there was a lot of things that made that happen. The bubble of money made me weak, was part of it. And it made me soft because I wasn't able to experience what it was like to have to do these things like I used to. And I fought tooth and nail to try not to let this money affect me in that way. But there's only so much you can do. And it does impact people. And I didn't realize how much it impacted me until the bubble burst. And I wish I had dealt with it in a better way. But I was emotionally immature. I was financially strapped to nothing. I had no support system, and everybody that I ever thought was my family was gone in a blink. So I was devastated. I was mortified. I felt betrayed by every person that ever talked to me. And I felt like, whoa, this is crazy, this bottom that I'm on. And it's taken me 10 years to get to where I am today from that bottom, with many more mistakes of whatever, but it was that bubble that had to pop for me to put me back in the real world so that I could grow again in the way that I needed to grow. This relationship, we were together since we were 15 years old. So it was a 20-year relationship, a 10-year marriage, 2 kids, house, whatever. It was interesting because every time I wanted to do something, and I made this choice, so it's on me, I compromised my goals and my character for this woman over and over and over again. And then at the end, she took it all. And I remember sitting and asking myself one day, why is it that I give so much and I find myself with nothing? Because I gave everything. I gave my all of my time, all of my money, all of my everything. And I'm like, why? And then it occurred to me, It's because I'm giving it all away. It's because I never was filling my cup first. And I was always giving from an empty cup. No wonder I was so stressed. No wonder I'd gained a bunch of weight back. Everything seemed like it was just the worst. And now I'm a multiple business owner. I've got the best relationship I've ever had with my children. I'm a leader in the community. I'm financially free. I'm becoming a thought leader and hopefully an inspirational coach to many others. And I'm in the best shape of my life. And all of that happened because of my 7-step thing. And I'll just pause there because I know I've been talking for a while.
Well, thank you. That sounds like quite some journey. And you wouldn't be who you were today if it wasn't for that journey. So the negatives and the positives are all what sort of make you up to who you are today. But it sounds like that's been quite some journey. I can't begin to imagine. And what talk about? I'd love to talk about family. But before that, whilst we're talking about sort of your journey that's got you here, so talk about sort of what work is today for you. You talked about sort of the journey that's got you to where you are. What does work look like today for you?
Work today, I'm a co-owner of a full-service branding and marketing agency. I also have a coaching and consulting business that I own sole, and I've got a few other revenue streams. So work is very much, I would call it fluid. I don't subscribe to a timeline. I create my own. I try to break it down to 3-4 hour days. I start at 4 a.m, and about from 4 to 8, I'm filling my cup, journaling, meditation, stuff like that, gym. Then the other 8 to 12, I'm doing certain things for one business. 12 to 4, I'm doing certain things for other businesses. And then after that, it depends. Sometimes I'll work on I'm working on writing a book and a TED Talk right now. So sometimes I get to compartmentalize the space so that I can continually chip away at it every day. But I try to schedule everything I can in a way that's flexible enough to pivot with the world and the day, because you never know what's going to happen. Kids get sick, people get hurt, you get sick, things happen. So that I'm always constantly moving forward and no balls are being dropped. I have regular meetings with my partner. I go to regular networking calls. It's a myriad of things. It's business development, it's sales, it's marketing, it's writing, it's leadership, it's thought leadership. It's a lot of different things that I'm working on. I'm also working on automating things with AI. So, because I do have a tech background, I actually went back to school 16 years later and got my master's in IT. So I'm now the only person in my family to ever get a master's, and never mind go to college. So, and I always just wanted one. And I've always had this really good connection with technology and creative, and I wanted to synergize it in a bigger way. And so I leverage that all the time by knowing how to take advantage of these tools to build other revenue streams. So it's very open. It's very, what's the word I'm looking for? I aspire to be bigger every day, and I aspire to be I want to be a force in this world. And I believe that all of the things that I've gone through were a gift. Every single one of them. They were not easy, but they were a gift. And I was uniquely suited to be this resilient, to receive those gifts, because that was the journey I needed to take to be the version of myself that I am now, and the version of the self that I aspire to be, so that I can make the biggest impact on everyone else around me. And that is basically how I operate every day for work.
Wow. So you're saying you start at 4 a.m. What time do you aim to go to bed? I assume you're not doing your 3 hours sleep anymore.
No. I'm much more balanced. So I try to get at least 7 hours, because I go to the gym 5 days a week. But I, depending on what I was doing, I used to go one day on the weekends, but now I just take both weekend days off because I have to prioritize rest and recovery just as much as I do everything else. So I go to bed around 9 o'clock. 8:30 sometimes if I feel I have the need. My kids are older, so when they're here with me, they can kind of handle their own thing, and they don't need to be tucked in with teddy bears so much anymore. I just try to read before bed because I like to program my subconscious. with anything that I can before I go to bed. And yeah, everybody always wants to know what time I go to bed. It's so funny.
Well, I think it's important. I mean, I get up at 5, but I go to bed about 9:30, 10 o'clock. Yeah, I think it's really important that sleep is. I never understand, or not never understand. I'm never quite sure about the people who say, "Oh, I manage on 3 hours sleep a night." I'm sure there are some people who can, but 99% of us do need, call it 8 hours of sleep a night. 7 hours is fine. 6.5, I'm sort of okay. Although if I get less than 7, I notice my performance difference versus more than 7. I can't get more than 8. I might get up and get stuff done. But yeah, around that 7 hours, yeah, I mean, there's a difference to me. Like last night, I got about 6 hours. I just woke up at 4 in the morning and I got to bed at 10. It's not ideal. I mean, I can feel the difference. And you said that your 4 to 8 a.m. shift is refilling the cup. You've talked about that a few times, but what is it you're doing specifically in that 4 to 8 a.m. shift?
All right. So because I try to stop eating around 6:37 every day, so that I have a good long amount of time before, like a good 2 or 3 hours before bed, so I can get quality sleep, and so that my body has enough time to process the food that I'm eating to rebuild the machine. So in the morning, because I've had that 8 to 10 hour fast, I have to eat right away because I'm going to the gym. So I've got to I got to give myself some glycogen shot, with some oats and some things that I prep ahead of time, and a protein shake with some creatine in it and things like that. And then I go and I journal and I meditate. I do affirmations, and then I stretch, and then I have a 15-minute drive to the gym. And I'm usually starting my workout around 5 a.m. and I'm done around 6-ish. And depending on what the day is and what time I have, I might hit one of those massage machines a couple of times. Again, just keep myself in the highest level of recovery that I can. Then I come back around 6:30. And honestly, this is going to be funny. This is something that I do that most people probably don't understand. But sometimes, and sometimes my girlfriend will come with me. Oftentimes she will, which is, I appreciate it. I'm like, I know this is a big ask, 4 a.m. And I know that you're a trooper for coming to the gym with me. I'm not even asking you to get up at 4 a.m. and do something simple. It's go to the gym, and it's so she's a trooper. And I think that's why we work so well. But we come back and there's nothing quite as good as an after the gym nap in the world. And so, with the exception of maybe, and I'm going to be very authentic and transparent here, but sometimes a little bedroom cardio after, like bedroom cardio after the gym, and then an after that nap, that is the greatest thing there is, especially if it's still in the morning, because snoozing sucks. You're just failing life. But if you get right out of bed and you get to work, and you have all this bandwidth at the end of the day, and you just take a 20-minute, it's 10, 15. It's just nothing crazy, but we snuggle a little bit, we connect, and that is part of filling my cup. And then after that, we, get ready for the day, make a big breakfast, and then we watch this thing that's more of like a spiritual thing that we're going through, talking about, shadow work, and we always have breakfast together, and we watch this. To work on it. So it's about shadow work. It's about figuring out what your triggers are. It's about, thinking about, they always say, like, if there's something going on in your life, before you react, go pause, what a pleasure. And pause, what a pleasure is there so you can say, okay, everything that happens is here to teach me about something. Now, whether I'm reacting to it, it's my job to figure out why I'm reacting to it and what I need to learn to stop that reaction. Right. And then so they also say, why is this in my movie? It's another question they ask, right? So they say, if you had a choice and you're stuck in a movie, you could leave and you could go to another movie theater. But this is your movie. So why is this in your movie, right? So why was all that stuff that I had to deal with as a child in my movie? I believe that it was the mountain I had to climb that nobody would climb electively. So I had to be forced into it, right? There was no other choice. I was either up over the mountain or the mountain would be on top of me, basically. And so we go through that. So that's my spiritual kind of connection. And then I also, every single day, I text my kids a gratitude text because I want to make sure that I'm connected with them daily. And every morning I have to come up with something brand new. So it's good morning. Today I'm grateful for. And then I do something silly. I hope you have I don't even know what it was. Like, I can tell you what today's was. It was, and they love it because when I miss it, they'll call me out on it. And sometimes I will miss it just to see if they're checking it. And I do it like 4:35 in the morning. So it's the first thing they see, because it's a way for me to stay connected with my kids when I'm not there with them all the time. And that's super important to me. And also I feel like that they live a life of super high privilege and abundance, which is good in some cases, but they need some grounding and they need some gratitude. So I told my daughter, today I'm grateful it's getting warmer out. I hope you have a super nice, eat some rice, don't get some lice day today. And then I just had a whole bunch of random emojis that tell a story. And then I tell them I love them. And each one of them gets their own little creative thing, and I have to come up with it every single day, and it's different every day. And with my son, who's older, I try to give him a little vocab. Like I told him, I said, I hope you have a crapulent day. And I thought he would actually look that one up, because crapulence is like when you overeat and you feel terrible. And I'm like, actually, I don't feel like you do that, but I figured maybe that would be the one word that you look up instead of asking me for it, But I keep it fresh, and I keep connected with them. So we have such a great relationship, because not only do I see them regularly, but I talk to them every day in a meaningful way, to the point where they prefer being with me. They prefer being in my household. They're inspired by my fitness, and they're doing it on their own. And I'm inspiring them and getting them to do it remotely, which I think is excellent, which is, again, it's about being the example. So all of these things that I'm doing in the morning are filling my cup. I'm connecting with the people that are most important to me. I'm taking time for myself. What I consider taking my medicine, which is going to the gym. It really does help me front load my day. And I'm not going to lie, getting up at 4 a.m. was not easy, and it didn't start that way. It started at like 7, and I'm like, well, what is 6:30? And then, well, 6:30, what's 6? What's 6, what's 5:30? Then I got to 4:15. I'm like, 4:15, what's 4? And now that's my limit. I'm done at 4, because otherwise I got to sleep. But it makes you feel like a badass. I'm not going to lie, because by the time I get home from all of this stuff that I've already done, people aren't even awake yet. My first 4-hour day they're not even started. So I try to have a mastery of my time, and that's how I fill my cup.
That's I think a lot of ideas there people could live from, and I think certainly for me the most important would be connecting with the kids. And how old are your kids now?
My son just turned 16, and my daughter's about to turn 13.
Mine are 19 and 22.
Oh, it's probably the same age range, but just a little older. Yeah.
I talk to my daughter every day. My son, I talk to a lot. He's not a talker. I could send him a text every day, but I wouldn't get a response every day. But I certainly, I think staying connected with the kids. I mean, to me, I often say to people that, if you do the work, like I've done the work, that you look at things like, what is your meaning? What is your deepest purpose in life? And people come up with all these long answers. My answer is, if I leave this world with 2 happy, healthy, well-adjusted kids, I've left the world in a better place than I entered it. Mm-hmm. So nothing more important to me than that. So you've talked about sort of your journey, which is quite some journey, what you're doing now, your family, health, you've talked about that. So what do you like to do for fun?
What I like to do for fun, honestly, all of this stuff is fun to me. That was kind of a problem that I used to have, because I didn't have any hobbies, because the thing I did for work was the thing I loved the most, and it was like my hobby, but it was also my profession. So I just didn't make room for much else. But I do love landscape photography. I do love hiking and camping, kayaking. I like going to museums. I like to experience crazy creative art, and I love traveling. So those are the things that I do, and I do quite a bit of it. I try to keep it balanced. Last September, I just went to the Netherlands for 10 days, and that was really beautiful. It was a great experience to travel the world with my girlfriend, who we're about to celebrate 4 years in May. And because I've had such a trial and tribulation of marriages. When I first met her, I was just like, here's the deal. I'm divorced. I got 2 kids. I got the operation, so I'm not having any more kids. And if I ever get married again, it's probably coming with a prenup. So if any of these things are off the table, let's just be friends. I'm too old for games. I'm done with games. And luckily, none of those things were off the table. And nowadays, who knows about the prenup? But here's the problem. We've been to 5 weddings in the last year, 3 of which were her family with her parents. And I'm like, oh man, the pressure's on because I'm on all of these. I'm in all the pictures. I'm part of the crew now, which is great, but at the same time, it's putting the pressure on me a little bit. And I've never met a more marriage-worthy woman in my life. As somebody who should be skittish, she is just the perfect partner, and she is so resilient. She is so well raised, and she's just a wonderful, wonderful person. I'm really lucky to have met her, and I met her through a business networking meeting, and you never would have thought that that's how it would happen. But those are the kind of things I like to do for fun. It gave us a chance to explore the world and go through different challenges and grow together. Because I told her, again, because I've been through the mud with these relationships. She's 10 years younger than me, by the way. So she doesn't have quite as much experience. And I'm like, all of this honeymoon phase stuff is great, but let's go through some shit. Let's see what happens when we go through something hard. And then let's see if this is a real good relationship. Because the honeymoon phase is great. We're all just dopamine and endorphins, and it's fine. But let's share an apartment. Let's go through multiple career changes. Let's have fights. Let's disagree on something that's important to us. Let's travel and have that stress. Let's try those things and see what happens. And man, we're the best team. It's ridiculous. I wish we could write a book about it.
Well, maybe you will after you get married, because that sounds like that might.
Yeah,
one day,
I keep, and here's the thing: I'm the one who always brings up the marriage thing. She never does, and
that just means she's smart.
Yeah, well, though I think she says that she would, but I mean, in my experience, a man getting married to a woman is it's super risky for a man because we have more to lose, and the court systems tend to favor the woman all the time, in my experience, and so I'm a little skittish about it. But man, she's making it hard. And I don't even want to say this on camera. I kind of really want to, but don't tell her I said that.
Yeah.
I just need to get over my own stuff.
To be fair, that's what life's about. It's getting out of our own shit, because most of the things that annoy us about other people, that cause issues, are really our own problems. It's when we learn to deal with those, and when we can move beyond those is when we can find that peace. And so for you, how does a balanced life look? And I look at a balanced life as something that is not a perfect balance, because no one is in perfect balance. Actually, there's a monk I know in India who might be in perfect balance, but most of us are not in perfect balance. It goes up and down. But overall, how does a balanced life look for you?
This is an interesting question, because I was a man of extremes. Going into college and being academically behind, emotionally behind, socially behind, for all the reasons that I've kind of gone over. Especially with this type of person that was coming in, where they're hyper privileged and they just didn't appreciate things the same way or have to work as hard for things that I did. I felt like I had to run 10 times faster than everyone else just to get back to zero. So I was furiously working on everything. I had 3 jobs. I had my own magazine, my own radio show, a girlfriend, and 6 classes. I slept 2 hours a night, maybe. And it wasn't great. I still worked out too, somehow. I don't even know. Youth. That's all I can think of is youth, because I wouldn't be able to pull that off anymore. But that unfortunate paradigm of extremes stayed with me much longer than it should have. And it's probably the thing that derailed my progress in a lot of ways. But also it's the thing that caught me up. So I felt like at a certain point, because I was going 10 times faster than everyone else. Have you ever seen the movie Spaceballs? Okay. You know what happens when the big ship goes past them and he says, they've gone plaid. Okay. That's how I felt. I felt like I was going so fast that I passed everybody, but I didn't even realize I passed them. And I surpassed them in a lot of ways. Maybe not economically, because they had a lot that they were given already, but in a lot of ways, especially academically. But now I was just like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to operate flow. So I was not eating right. I was caffeinating myself like so much soda. I didn't drink coffee, so it was just so much soda, so much, it was terrible. Uh, and that kind of haunted me for a long time, where I felt like that was a badge of honor, being able to do this with 2 hours of sleep, being able to sleep. Many times I would stay up for 3 days at a time. No drugs, just Pepsi. I don't know how I did it. Pepsi and my vision, So
And youth.
And youth, right. And that youth thing. So no sleep, just terrible. My body was wreaking havoc. I was getting, terrible gut problems. I needed surgery, all these things. My body was breaking down. So at this point now, I realized that was the glue that was missing in all of my systems. And I needed to find balance. And so what balance looks for me now is touching upon all the different aspects of life, right? So physical health, mental health, spiritual health, my relationships with people that matter to me, my personal development, my work, my profession, still having free time and fun. So to aspire to be hobbies, all these things that I would sacrifice. I was thinking, sacrifice the body. You're the only one that's going to make it out of this whole. And then it's interesting because you brought up purpose, and I'll circle back. But because my only goal when I was younger was to just not be like the people that I came from, when I achieved that early, I didn't know what to do. I felt like I had ultimate drive, but no purpose, because I'd already done it. I graduated high school. I graduated college. I'm beat systemic problems. I'm not a drug addict. I mean, I beat it all, which honestly, again, low bar, but hard to get out of from a kid when this is all you see. And so I had to redefine my purpose. And this happened just recently, like 3 years ago, because I was feeling like I had all this energy and I was just digging holes for the sake of digging holes, right? I'm like, am I digging a pool? Am I digging a grave? Nobody knows what I'm doing. I'm just digging because I have all this energy, but I wasn't focusing on anything in value. And then I realized after I meditated on it and I started doing, 5 years ago, I couldn't even meditate because I couldn't slow my brain down enough. I was still getting terrible sleep, and I was overly caffeinated. I was just poorly nourished. It was just not great. And so I had to practice all of these things. I had to find out what was the missing pieces. What are these 7 or 8 elements of life that I was not, and you go and there's all these exercises, you can plot it out and which ones got more than the other and what's lacking and what's too much. I had lost weight a second time, but I was in no way in shape. I was just skinny because the second time I basically just starved myself. I was drinking nothing but Bang energy drinks and like 1 protein bar a day. I joked around that I would never decompose because I'm all just preservatives and Cheeto dust. So if you bury me, you dig me up in 200 years, I'll be exactly the same. Like a Twinkie, I'll just be preserved. So all of those things I had to unlearn, and then I had to just keep building in little practices. And it all comes down to this 7-step formula. And I'll share it with you right now. It's clarity, focus, accountability, consistency, systems, feedback, and it's glued together with balance. And that's the 7 pieces. I had to be clear on what it was that I wanted to be and what my purpose was. That was first and foremost. It's not a secret. Everybody talks about this, but it's hard to get to. So I figured, I read the Start With Why books and I tried to listen to podcasts, and I was like, I don't know what my purpose should be. I've got so much time left. And my brother passed away in my arms, and I promised him also on his deathbed that I wouldn't waste a second of the time that was gifted to me that he was robbed from. And so that was a big promise. And when I make a promise, I keep it. I'm a man of my word for sure. So I realized that because of all the things that I had gone through, and I felt I was uniquely designed for this level of resilience and adaptability, that I need to be the example for everyone. Anyone that's struggling, because it doesn't matter if you show up in pajamas or a 3-piece suit, everyone's struggling with something. Doesn't matter how much money you have or where you're coming from. everybody's got something that they've struggled with. And I feel like I've struggled with every possible thing on the planet that you can struggle with. And just when you think that, you've hit rock bottom, the universe tells you, there's still a level below it. Or just when you think that there's something's impossible, the universe on the flip side, in a positive way, says, you're capable of anything. So my balance is really just trying to make sure that everything that I do is in the effort of being the example for someone, being the example for my kids, for my employees, for my partner, for my friends. And the reaction has been incredible. And it wasn't something I don't post about this online. This is why I'm starting to pull this out of the shadows and go on these podcasts to talk more about it, because I do want to start sharing it more. But I don't post about it. It's just they see the difference in my energy. They see the difference in my physical form. They see the difference in what I'm able to do. They have some idea of where I came from, but they probably don't know as much as I've shared on this podcast. And so being the example, now my kids electively want to work out remotely. And I told my daughter, I said, do you want to come to the gym with me? You've got to prove it. Prove that you want it. And this is how you're going to do it. You've got to go 3 times a week and your gym at your mom's house, and you've got to text me the results every 3 times. And I need to see that consistently. And I don't want to have to chase you. I want you to show me that you really want this. And then I'll get you a thing, and we'll go to the gym all the time when you're old enough. She just turned 13. And she's doing it. She's crazy great. And my son is now taken that, and he needs it more than she does. He's actually kind of approaching the same problems that I was at his age, where I was pushing 300 pounds. And so I want to give to him what I got, which was that unwavering belief and focus that there's nothing in my life that is impossible. So getting back to balance, it's about making sure I fill my cup first. This is something I always struggled with. I would stay up till 2, 3, 4 in the morning and get up at 6 to go to work. Stupid. And then just fuel my body with Bang energy drinks and just hope for the best. And wear that as a badge of honor. And then go to school at night, and then just all these things. But I was not the greatest version of myself. I truly believe that the most important people in your life deserve the best version of you. And that's what I do every day, right? So filling my cup first is where balance comes from. I am no longer giving from an empty cup. I'm giving from the overflowing saucer, because every morning I go to the gym, I stretch, I read, I meditate, I fill my cup, I communicate with my people. Sometimes I snuggle. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's that oxytocin and that dopamine and that serotonin and all those things. And you fill your cup. And then when I get to work, I am at peace. I've accomplished so much, and I have so much to offer my employees, my partners, my friends, my clients, people I want to inspire, the people listening to me on this podcast right now, everybody. And that has really been the key. And having a command of my time is really crucial, so that I can fit in all the things in the right compartments. And learning from all the things that I've learned, delayed gratification, having a vision of what you want, being consistent with the results, and being focused on the outcome, and having a floor and a ceiling. This is really a big piece of it too. Every day, right? I have a ceiling. Every day I'm going to go and I'm going to do exactly what I need to do, and I'm going to break records, and I'm going to go for an hour, and I'm going to have plenty of time, and I'm not going to rush around. It doesn't always happen that way. Kids get sick, you get sick, things don't work. I got injured, snowstorms, weather, car breaking down, whatever it is. And so if you have a ceiling of exactly what you can do, and then you have a floor of the least amount you could do to not break the chain, keep that momentum going. Hey, listen, I don't have time to go to the gym today because of all these things. It's not an excuse, but what can I do? Can I go to the gym later? Can I do 25 push-ups right now? Can I do 100 push-ups throughout the day? Can I do something to make sure that I'm not breaking the chain? Because if you have, I've read the statistics somewhere that if you miss 2 days of something, you're slipping down a slippery slope of building a new bad habit. So I don't ever want to break the chain. That's a Seinfeld thing, to break the chain. So that's where I really get my balance. I fill my cup up the most I can in the morning. I have a floor and a ceiling. So, hey, sometimes I got to travel for business. Sometimes we're traveling. I certainly didn't work out 5 days a week when I went to the Netherlands, but I also worked really hard to lose 5 pounds before I left, knowing that those 5 pounds would reappear when I came back, because I'm going to eat a lot of food and I'm going to do a lot of things and I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm not going to be so extreme. So it's about not being extreme, having a floor and a ceiling to everything you want to do, every goal. So you're still chipping away at it. It's not about perfection. It's about consistency, and filling my cup as full as I can until I make a big old mess on the floor every morning, so that I have so much to share with the world and the people that matter the most to me, is the secret to my balance. And it is working. I've never felt better, and I've never been more successful.
Love that. And thank you for sharing your journey with us. I've loved hearing that, and I'm sure everyone else will as well. And how can people find you?
The best place to find me is on LinkedIn. So you could just search for Zachary Lemear, and I'll give you the link for this, but it's ZACHARY-LEMEAR. It's an odd spelling of Lemear. Again, it was something that was handed to me. It's a weird story, but maybe for the next one. And you can always, reach out to my company, Pivot Creative. We are a full service branding and marketing agency. So if you're looking for strategy over tactics, give us a call.
Well, thank you, Zach. And thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe and tell your friends, leave a review. Thank you.